now without any further ado, we're going to be bringing on Shakir. Shakir, you ready? You're looking serious for a second.
Nah, I was reading something. That's all.
Well, how you doing tonight? Thank you for being in the Horizons Author Lounge with me.
All is well. Nothing to complain about.
Amen to that. Amen to that. And besides, you can complain and everybody's gonna be like, what you complaining about?
That part right there.
So before we just jump right in there, tell everybody who Shakir Rashaan is. Because and the reason why I say this is because you are a multi-genre author. So I don't even know what is that one genre that you're really known for?
That depends on who you ask. I started in erotica and then I moved on from there. It just I've got so many different genres. I think I've pretty much lost count for the most part. Whatever moves me is what I end up running with. So that's usually how it goes for me.
And
Right
how many
now
books do you
I'm
have now?
15 at the moment, not including short stories and anthologies and such. Yeah, that's about right.
Oh yeah, you start counting those anthologies, those numbers are gonna go up.
That part definitely. It's a lot. I sometimes I have to try and go through just to remember what I did and didn't do sometimes because I'll have people that come up and they go, I remember from this, and I'm going, oh my god, I did do that, and yeah. So
Well, what's your favorite genre to write? Do you have one, or is that like
um,
choosing your favorite baby?
honestly, it depends on my mood. Right now, I've been in my bag with regard to fantasy and paranormal as of late. Whether I'm dealing in the adult side or dealing in the young adult side, and then of course there's the whole new adult thing that they got going on as far as that in between stage. Like it's like they're over 18, they're under 25, and it's in that little mix, so to speak. So it's been a thing to say the least. But yeah, I've been in my fantasy and paranormal bag as of late. That's what I've been. That's what I've been working on. That's what's currently out on submission. As far as different books that my agent is pushing for me right now. I've got a couple of new ones that I'm working on that are not in that genre. But I'll explain that later.
Okay, okay. And now, all of your books are on your website,
Yeah.
shakirrashan.com.
hmm Yeah, the ones that are available for purchase at the moment, I'm still trying to get everything together with regard to my first series. They're starting to come out of print, so I got to figure out how to pivot and figure out how to get that back so I can put those back in the rotation, so to speak.
Now, one thing you mentioned also is that you wanted to talk about being a male author. You've been in the industry for how many years now?
This is year 15 for me.
Wow, it's amazing how time flies, huh?
Yeah, it's like you start thinking about it. I was like, I looked at it earlier and I was like, oh my God, it has been that long. And you just kind of you don't pay attention until you actually start to sit down and actually, go through everything. It's like, yeah, from the first time that I independently published The Awakening up until this point, it's 15 and counting.
Wow, wow. So have in your 15 years, what has been the big difference? Because I don't know. When I growing up in the literary industry, I always thought that male authors had it a little bit easier because it seemed like a lot of the male authors I saw when I went to book festivals,
Mhm.
they would smile at the lady and they would talk, and next thing you know, the lady's like, "Yeah, I'll buy your book." But the women sometimes I felt like we had to work a little harder to sell our books.
The ground has shifted quite
Mm,
literally in a manner of speaking. Like maybe that might have been the case at one time, and I'm not suggesting that it wasn't. But now the paradigm has shifted tremendously in a manner of speaking. There is a in a lot of instances for me personally, I have to do a little bit more. Um, as far as getting a woman who likes to read in the genres that I write to trust that I know what I'm doing.
mm,
And the reason for that is that in a lot of instances, what our counterparts dealt with in the 90s and parts of the 2000s, there was not a lot of independent publishing going on at that time. So when they made it through the gate, so to speak, there were people who were helping to polish their work in such a manner that it doesn't feel problematic in a manner of speaking.
Mhm.
Now, with the advent of independent publishing, self-publishing, however you want to call it, there's not as much polish in a manner of speaking. Like they feel like, okay, I can run it through this software, I can run it through this, and
Right.
that's enough for me. And then they'll put it out there and then get upset because nobody's reading it because it's not as much
There's no heart
development of
in
the
it. You can
characters.
use Chat GPT, but the Chat GPT isn't going to put the heart into your story. It's not going to bring your characters alive. I mean,
Yeah,
it might do a little bit for you, but you can't write
even before we got to even before we got to Chat GBT, which is a whole other thing that I don't even want to touch in that regard because I
so now speaking of editing, since we're talking a bit about it, and you're writing so many different genres, have you had found yourself having to use a different type of editor depending on the genre of the book you're writing, or do you have
yeah.
somebody who maybe okay,
No, absolutely. The thing about dealing with you, it's there's not an editor that's going to be a one size fit all, so to speak, because there are editors that have a specialty. They have a favorite genre that they love to edit because they've read it. They've read enough of it that they can really kind of help you with the beats, help you with the pacing, the rhythm, figuring out whether or not this is going to work or if this concept needs to be polished a little bit more, whether there needs to be some aspects that need to be added. Not necessarily that they're pulling from those other books that they've read, but it's just a simple matter of they have a better feel for
right?
what works and what doesn't work. If you have an author that writes reverse harems per se, and you give it to an editor doesn't have a that doesn't have a real affinity for reverse harems, they're not going to do you the same justice as a person who likes that genre because they'll be
Right.
like they'll almost put they'll try their best not to, but they'll have a bias against what you're writing, and it'll show up in the editing stage. I've seen it happen way too many times.
Absolutely. So now tell me, I'm loving this. First of all, this conversation on writing. But when did you fall in love with writing?
God, I was probably right before high school. Definitely, yeah.
Right before high school.
Um, I was good at telling stories from an oral perspective. My grandfather kind of helped hone those skills when I
Mhm.
was younger, and then when I actually got a chance to learn how to put words together, um, that was probably right before I got to high school, and then it really took off once I got to high school because I had English teachers that saw the potential and just kind of cultivated from there.
So it's always good when a teacher recognizes your potential and then helps you to cultivate that potential.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, without them, I probably would not have, written as much as I did. Because I mean, I was, my when I was in high school, I was actually dealing more on the STEM side of things in terms of
Okay.
engineering and mathematics and that type of thing. And the wild part was when I finally got to take the SATs, I actually scored higher on the English version than I did in the math. So I should have took the hint then that maybe that wasn't exactly what my forte actually was, but you know how it goes. It's like you have a certain idea in your head when you're younger, and then things change when you finally have a chance to get some experience under your belt.
Absolutely.